It's time to mind your business with me, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in to find out how to mind your business with BEDC, special guest entrepreneurs, industry experts, and more. Brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here. Welcome to Mind Your Business. You know me, right? I'm Jamillah.
I know you. Yeah.
So Derrick Smith, we knew each other in college.
We did.
And now you're out working in Bermuda, and you have started this, or want to found S&A Total Clean.
Yes.
Yes, so we're going to talk about that today. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about you and yourself.
I am, as you said, we went to college in Atlanta together.
Yes.
I studied social work there, came back, worked for a couple of organizations. Currently, my full-time job is with Bermuda Housing Corporation as a transitional housing caseworker.
Okay.
I have 4 wonderful kids. The oldest is 22. The youngest is 7. Yes, very, very busy.
Yes, you are.
2 girls, 2 boys.
Okay.
Wonderful kids. And I think over the last couple of years, actually last year I was talking to a friend, and I remember she says, you got to turn a hobby or something you like into a money-making business. One of the things I actually have enjoyed over the years is cleaning, especially cleaning vehicles. And so I was like, you know what? Let me see what I can do with this.
Yeah.
Let's see some of the things or what the possibilities are. And so, for a few months, I kind of looked at, what's going on, what type of vehicles I would want to clean and stuff like that there. So I think I honed my business towards what I would call corporate fleet vehicles. Those are the vehicles I think probably got under cleaned.
Yeah.
And if you have a look around the island, you would see delivery vehicles and all sorts of vehicles, and you're like, oh man. And even, basically working in where I work, I actually was looking at one of my colleagues' vehicles, and I was like, how often do you get it cleaned?
Right. They don't know. They don't.
And so it also took me to that kind of understanding that with a business, when you look at how often do you get your office cleaned?
Right. Every day. Somebody comes.
Exactly.
Every day.
Now, you don't need a vehicle cleaned every day.
No.
But your vehicle also represents your brand. It represents who that company is. And so when people are out there seeing it, what are they seeing?
Right.
Not only that, but just like you would have your office cleaned every day, your vehicle is a mobile office for your staff.
That's true.
And the same way you take care of the staff that do the books and are behind that counter, how do you take care of the staff members who are out there in the field every day, day in, day out, promoting, making that business money? So,
I love that. I don't think people thought about it that way. And I do think that there's an opportunity there because you're creating this niche, right? You're focusing on these corporate fleet vehicles. And so this is a company that may have multiple vehicles.
Right.
And then creating an opportunity for you to put them on a schedule, service them on a recurring basis.
Yeah.
So what has it been like since you're turning your passion or your hobby into to a business? What have been some of the things that have worked for you going through this process?
Actually, it's been quite interesting because what I did was, first looking at the difference between a car
Yes.
and a van.
Yeah.
For instance, there are some distinct differences that I've noticed. Number one, your car has a level of protection that's most of the time much greater than what a van does.
What you mean?
Cars what they have is a clear coat.
Yeah.
So a clear coat in a car is much thicker, much durable, because of the level of protection, I guess, or because of the amount of money you pay for that vehicle.
Gotcha.
Right? With a van, especially what I noticed here in Bermuda was especially the white vans.
Yeah.
If you go out and you look at one of the white vans, it always looks kind of dull.
Yes.
And I've kind of noticed that the clear coats on that vehicle aren't as durable or as thick as you would find on a regular non-commercial vehicle.
Got you.
So with that in mind, using products and to ensure that that durability lasts. Because what a clear coat does in many cases is it helps to prevent some of the contaminants. One thing I learned in Bermuda, you have brake dust,
Yep.
salt,
Yep.
and sun. And so if you're not taking those things out of your clear coat or out of the surface of your vehicle,
Yeah.
that's when you begin to see those little rust. I call them rust pimples, right? You see those little rust bites start to come in. Many companies or many people, they ignore that at first. But remember, as time goes on and you're not servicing that vehicle or those things are not being addressed, it leads to greater problems.
Yes.
The rust starts to embed into the paint and then into the metal,
actual, yep.
right? And so it makes it a little more difficult when it gets to that level. But on the surface, it's easy.
Okay.
We can use a decontamination process, whether it's liquid, whether it's what we call a clay bar that gets those little particles and stuff out. Then we can compound wax it, and then put a sealant on it. And then what that actually does is that helps the contaminants not to stick to the surface of your vehicle. So you're not only getting a clean vehicle, but you're getting a vehicle that becomes a little more durable. So.
Look at you talking about this like science. I'm like, what you mean? You just don't just wash the car and just rinse it out?
And it's actually interesting because I was very fortunate that I had friends who had company vehicles.
Okay.
And so, testing the product, testing what can be done, how long it lasts. That took me around about 6 months to a year.
Okay.
And so it's been really, really interesting being able to service vehicles in that nature.
Yeah.
And seeing, hey, no, you don't have to get it done every week.
Right. But if you do all the things that you just mentioned, it will give you the ability to go longer without having to get it?
Yes.
Serviced.
I remember one customer that I did when we were doing the pitch.
Yes.
I called up my friend, her dad owns a business, and I was like, can you actually can I do his van?
Yeah.
She was like, oh, hold on. So he was like, yeah. And so after I finished the van, he was like, oh my gosh. Can you do the other one?
Right.
And so it was like, and he had literally said, like, we were just been talking about a budget for painting the vans this year, but it looks like we don't have to do that. And if you look at the cost of repainting a van versus maintaining it, it could be kind of pricey.
Yeah.
You're looking at anywhere from $2,500 to up to $4,000 just for the spray job.
Right.
Not only are you looking at that, but then you got to replace your logos.
Right. That's right.
And then you have to think of how long it's going to take. So you're losing productivity from that vehicle. Not only are you losing productivity, but for S&A, what we try to do is we look at servicing that vehicle in the downtime of the vehicle so that you are not losing productivity. You're not losing a couple of hours a day when that vehicle should be out making you money.
Right.
So we initially looked at that vehicle looking good.
Right.
But then when we start delving a little deeper, we start looking at not only do we want you to look good, we want you to save money, because saving money is what business is all about, isn't it?
Yes, the bottom line.
Exactly. And if you save money, you can also probably use that money to build your business, or it will be cost effective to your pricing so that customers may not have to pay that much. And then another thing that we also looked at, for Bermuda Housing Corporation, I work in St. David.
Yeah.
So every day I'm going across the airport and I'm looking over to where all our discarded vehicles go. So from another perspective, keeping your vehicle on the road as long as it possibly can helps it not to make it to the landfill.
Okay.
Right? So it was
so it sounds like you said S&A Clean, but it sounds like it's a little bit more involved than that. So what exactly do you do to the vehicle?
Initially, when we first get your vehicle, we give it a good washing. And then we go through what we call a decontamination process, which basically is taking all the contaminants off the surface of the vehicle. And that is done, we can either use a liquid process or what we call a clay bar, which is more, it feels like plasticine.
Yeah.
And just rubbing the surface of the vehicle.
Okay.
And that brings out all the contaminants. So by the time you finish that initial process, your vehicle feels smooth. You know, there's no traction.
Right.
And it's ready for the next process.
Okay.
Depending on how bad or how long it's been, if oxidization or the paint is set in where your paint is looking kind of flat and unglossy, we just then go through what we call the compound process, which kind of cleans it a little deeper and brings back that shine to it.
Yeah.
That luster, as we say it, right? And then, of course, the next phase is that you give it a wax, which is a protective, another layer of protection. And then the final phase that we do to the vehicle is we put a sealant on it, which helps protect it against the oxidization, helps against some of those UVs, but it has a nice slickness to it, which at that point, you know, when the contaminants are getting there, if it rains or something, they begin to wash off instead of embedding into the paint.
Right.
So it's all about protecting the vehicle over the long run. So we do that on the exterior, in your door jambs, and then we also do what is called an interior cleaning as well. So we clean the inside, make sure that it's looking nice and fresh.
I'm sure people are listening like, I know you said corporate vehicles, but can I sign up to get my own personal car washed? Because you know how we feel about our personal cars.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because, you know, I do the family vehicle most of the time, and it's and I've practiced on some private cars. I like doing it, but as I say, the business is geared towards that corporate. I don't mind doing it. I know I have one car to do my best friend growing up. You know, on the police force and stuff. His mom was like, "Oh, can you do my car?" And I was like, "Yeah." So, Miss Thomas, I am getting to you. Mama Thomas, I'm getting to you. And I like during that initial cleaning, just taking your time and making sure that everything's done the way that it should be done so that, you know, your vehicle looks the way that you want it to look.
Right. So. Okay. Well, I'm loving hearing the process. I had no idea that it was so involved.
Oh, yes.
And I think I don't know of anyone that does that for like corporate vehicles here in Bermuda.
I think people like the regular detailers.
Yeah, like the regular detailers.
They do it and you can take it, but you know, it's normally done during the hours of 9 to 5.
Right.
So what we, as I say, we're looking at is after hours
when the vehicle's not on the road.
Not on the road,
right?
And it's downtime.
Yeah.
As I say, our biggest thing is that you don't lose time with that vehicle being utilized, so you're not losing money because that vehicle's in the shop for a couple of hours.
So is this a mobile, or do you have a location where you do this? How do you deliver?
It's a little bit of both. I do have a location where I do it, and then I normally just take it back to the house for that initial wash.
Yeah.
So that I can get right into it and everything like that there. But it's more mobile because after your initial wash, believe it or not, there's not a lot of water or consumption and those types of things. I use what's called a rinseless method. Okay. So basically, I'm spraying your vehicle down with firmers and stuff like that there, and then just wiping that dirt right off.
Okay.
And so it doesn't take a lot of, and that was the other thing, finding a process that, you know, in Bermuda, water's like not gold,
right? I know. Thank you for the rain, but yeah.
Know, during normal hours, you know, water is very, very precious.
Yes.
And so finding a method that would be, what is it?
Environmentally
friendly,
yeah.
Was one of the other factors that we looked at when we decided that this is the route that we wanted to take. So being able to go to a business, spray that cart on with our firmers, have a bucket of water. Believe it or not, it doesn't even take more than 5 gallons of water for each vehicle.
Wow.
So, you know, really trying to make sure that we're utilizing resources to the best of our abilities.
And that in itself is worth something. Like you said, water, we have to pay for water. In the absence of the rain, we have to pay for water. So from a company or corporate perspective, I'm sure if you're like, well, I don't need to use 30 gallons of water
Exactly.
to wash this vehicle. I only need my one bucket. They're like, okay, check. That's saving money, right?
Exactly.
And then he gonna do the decontamination with the clay thing.
Right.
And then that's saving money.
And as I said, the vehicle comes out looking good.
Yes.
It lasts longer. And as I said, that promotes your brand.
Yes.
When people see that vehicle, they're like, oh, cool. Some people don't pay attention to things like that, but at the end of the day, I think when I see a clean vehicle, I'm like, wow, look at that.
Look at that.
You
be like, I did that.
Yeah.
That's me.
Actually, it was funny because I did do a vehicle that I was riding behind it one day, and it was kind of sprinkling and raining, and I was like, jeez, look at that. The rain's just beating off that vehicle. Then I looked down at the license plate, I was like, that's one of mine. So, yeah.
I love that.
And you know what? Hats off to all the people who have gotten into this type of business and who do detailing, because some people think it is just washing a car.
Yeah.
It's a lot goes into it. It's a lot of product, a lot of energy to make those vehicles. And as you said, in Bermuda, I think the average car is over $35,000. So making sure that it is kept in a pristine condition. And, sometimes you just have to say, do I want it done every week?
Yeah.
No. Do I want it done once a month, once a quarter, or once a year, or bi-yearly? Those are the types of things that you have to consider, because if you get your car done or your vehicle done on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, you're still going to save that vehicle and have it for a longer time.
Extend its life.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I know one vehicle I was doing, the person was like, oh, yeah, my company, what we actually do is donate the van after its life cycle with us. So imagine even that, being able to donate a vehicle that is
still,
yes.
You're like, I'm winning. Whoever's on the receiving end of that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they got a vehicle that is still pretty much in tip-top condition if it's been regularly maintained. But not only that, if you can imagine adding a couple of years to the life cycle of a vehicle so that those resources can be used somewhere else in your company.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Okay.
I remember we were was it last year? A year before last.
It was last
at John
year.
Smith's Bay,
Yes,
at the beach. And we were at the African Day, which is coming up anyway. And you mentioned this to me, and I'm like, you need to sign up for our incubator program.
Right.
And usually I say that to people, and I may or may not see them. So I was thrilled that you actually did it.
Yes.
What was your thought process behind doing it? Because I know, it is a process. We do ask you for some information that you may or may not have at the time. But what was kind of your process, and why did you decide to actually do it?
I think the process was simple. I think, like many people, you come up with an idea.
Yeah.
I think having worked for friends and worked for other people who have been entrepreneurs and seeing some of these stumbling blocks that they have gone through and some of the hurdles that they encounter because they don't have the correct information, I didn't want to start something and be like, oh, yeah, jumping in and then have limited information and then paying catch up.
Right.
So when we had that conversation, I was like, okay, cool. Let me go back. I went on BEDC's website. I was looking and I was like, yeah, I think I can do this. And, the rest, as they say, is history.
It's history.
I signed up. I looked at what it was going to take in terms of commitment and stuff like that there. And it actually does take a lot of commitment because it is time consuming. But the information that you guys provide to us as entrepreneurs has been absolutely invaluable to me. And even that first course where it's like
validating your idea,
the Ice House program and getting you to think differently and getting your mindset. Because I know it was just like when you ask why, living in Bermuda is not cheap.
No, it is not.
And so, looking at different ways of having capital and having something sustainable. I remember being in a Bermuda where, when I went 16, when I went 15, I remember working for Marketplace. When I went 16, my dad was like, nah, you're coming with me. Took me down to the airport because at that time, he had friends who worked there. He actually worked at the airport, but not only that, he was looking for, listen, you need to do something with the rest of your life.
Yes.
And so those opportunities, I think, are less and less today. And so it got me to think, do I just want to make a little bit of extra money?
Right.
Or do I want to build something that is sustainable and that maybe can be passed on to my sons or my daughters if that's what they want to do, or even showing people, hey, there are opportunities out there, and if you go about doing it the right way, and if you arm yourself with knowledge, then you can have a more sustainable business than a survivable business.
That's right. And I love that. I love that you said that, because I think that is one of the keys. Sometimes people, like you said, it's a passion. It was a hobby for you. You enjoyed doing it. And then you figure like, well, how can I earn a living for myself doing this? But to me, what I would like people to think, and you touched on it, is how do you build this thing that can outlive you if you do it right.
Right.
You know what I mean? That if you do want to pass it down to your family, or you want to sell it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's not just extra money on the side. It's I'm creating this business, this thing that can exist outside of me.
Right.
You know what I mean? That I can potentially pass on to my children, or it could be its own thing. And next thing you know, S&A Total Clean is this huge company providing support services to all the vehicles on the island, And so I'm glad that you took the time to go through that process as opposed to skipping that step sometimes.
Yeah, as I said, I have seen friends struggle in business, and then it's like, if you only did this, understanding like the numbers.
Yes.
I remember one friend, he had an employee, and I'm like, he doesn't make enough money for you to even pay him.
Yeah.
But then he had his own way of working it out that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
But as I say it, understanding numbers, understanding the trials and tribulations that you may have to go through. Sometimes I've gotten up and like, why did I put myself through this? And then other times I'm like, oh yeah. This is something that the passion comes and keeping motivated.
Yes.
And I think the other thing is that when we did our cohort, it was a very large cohort.
Yeah, it was.
And one of the most interesting things for me from this whole experience is listening to other people, because we are all at various stages of our business.
Yes.
And so listening to some of those persons and the struggles that they had going through. I remember having a question about insurance, and one of our members was like, oh, just go her, and her. It's not as expensive as you think it is.
Yeah.
Because, if you don't know, you just don't know.
That's right.
But the numbers and having the ability to talk very frankly, and having other people who have, and even though our businesses are all different, if you stop and look at it, business models are business models.
That's right.
They all have some essential parts of them, no matter if you're doing cars, glasses, soap, vending machines. They all have some certain similarities to them that if you want them to be sustainable, you have to know.
I love that. Listen, we are at 30 minutes. Can you believe it?
Already?
I know. But I think what you said and ending on this note is important. It's take advantage of the opportunities and resources that are there for you. Because at the end of the day, through the program Enterprise Bermuda, we want you to succeed, because your success then begets other success. Because now you can hire people who were previously unemployed. Like you said, you can build a legacy for your own children and create an opportunity for yourself. Because you're not working for Bermuda Housing forever.
No, I'm not.
Even though they may want you to at some point.
I love my job.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy, and most of the time when I did do part-time work,
it
was still in the social work field.
Yes.
And so I was like, no, I do my 9 to 5. I enjoy it. I love it. I love the guys that I work with and stuff like that there. But I wanted to do something that at the end of the day, I enjoy doing
Yeah.
just as much, but it doesn't take as much of my headspace.
Yes,
if you
understood.
know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
Getting out there and waxing and stuff like that. There,
it's almost like therapy. Huh?
It is.
It's like wax on, wax on.
Yeah, and so and just sometimes giving a person a product and they're like, man, this is what could happen. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this is what can happen.
Yeah.
If you are a business out there and you want those vehicles done,
holla. How you reach out? How do people contact
right now
you?
I basically use my email address,
okay,
which is dsmith.bda@gmail.com.
Okay.
And so if you just send me an email right now, we'll get back to you as soon as possible and we can discuss what the needs of your vehicle are and pricing. I try not to overprice myself.
Yeah.
For the most part, a full cleaning, decontamination is around about $250.
Okay.
Because that takes around about 4 to 5 hours.
Right.
And then we also have what we call a maintenance program.
Okay.
Where we come in and we clean that vehicle. We do 2 exterior cleanings and 1 interior cleaning for $150.
Okay.
And so you can spread it out over time.
Mm-hmm.
So what I found is the most effective way is if you do it on a monthly basis. So basically, you're paying $150 over a 2-month period.
Got you.
As opposed to having it done every month.
Okay.
Right.
Well, we're going to work on getting our website and all this other stuff so people can...
I'll have to say, sometimes you get so caught up.
Yeah, and doing the work that... Yes, I get it.
There's other little things.
I know, but we will sort it out, trust.
Yes.
We'll make sure it happens. Derrick, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us your experience. We definitely minded some business. Mm-hmm. And I want you to remember that if you don't mind your business, who will?
Exactly.
Thanks for tuning in to Mind Your Business with me, your host, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in next week, Thursday at 4 p.m. because if you don't mind your business, who will? Mind Your Business is brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here.